Freetown, and because it was raining heavily.
Heavily.
I mean, some areas flooded this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, even at Armory Town Junction when we were driving to work this morning. I mean, it's crazy because it's like since the construction of
New roads.
I mean, we were expecting that they were going to correct the mistakes and find ways to actually get the water
flowing in a but in some areas the damage had already been done, and don't forget, some people haven't changed their habits, of littering the city, and so
Obviously.
these are all the reasons why we have floods in some parts of the city. But anyway, we do appreciate that it's the rainy season and some of these things are bound to happen.
Exactly. Well, a few things happening around the continent. I mean, the soldiers who took Alpha Kandeh said, of course, he's not been harmed, and he has been given access. I mean, his doctors have access to him so that they can be able to just look at him, monitor his health condition and things like that, which is good.
Yeah. And upon conclusion of the meeting they had with ministers and I think governors as well yesterday, they asked them to hand in their passports, travel documents, whatever.
So they will not run away.
But it's a worrying situation there in Guinea because they now have a curfew. They haven't stated when the curfew will end.
Right.
But the curfew started yesterday. So we pray and hope that the people will remain safe.
Get better
and they find a remedy as soon as possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the hope. But good morning to you, our lovely audience. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV Television and on radio. It's your favorite breakfast show. My name is Samuel Wise-Bandura.
And my name is Antonia Howard. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're broadcasting from the top of Tower Hill in our studios in Freetown, Sierra Leone. You can also watch us live on the Facebook page. Share your thoughts with us on the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page.
Right, and as usual, let's take a look at top stories from our primetime news, and we will be right back.
AYV International opens new office and studios in London.
The STV team in South Africa, they were very impressed with the presentation. When Doc came back to me and said, congratulations, you're doing well, we're moving forward slowly. And finally, in January 2021, I got the email that yes, let's start to discuss properly, technically. So that is where we are. And on the 25th of August, we are now live in Africa with the STV channel 9. On the 17th of September, we're going to formally launch the channel in Sierra Leone. That is Transnational Multi-Choice and AYV. Today I got a call from the team. I spoke to Natalie. She said the CEO of the STV had gone up.
7 years ago, Ambassador Navo invited me to look at what is now an empire. We went to a compound not far from my office, Wesley Street. It was a ghost town. And today we are celebrating that dream. It is going beyond. Ambassador Navo, thank you very much. You're giving a lot to Sierra Leoneans.
EDSA embarks on concrete fencing of transformers in Freetown.
There came a time whereby almost every other day we receive reports of vandalism in one area or the other. This grew to a stage that it became a growing concern. Recently in Lunde, we have about 5 substations that have been vandalized by unknown persons. This is happening throughout the country in all of our operational areas, which is very challenging for us as EDSA. We first of all started by ensuring that we rehabilitate some of our substations that had problems with the locks. We ensured that we changed most of the locks, and also we undertook some maintenance activity. We had earlier on identified areas that are exposed to unknown persons. So currently we are working on 50 substations that work is underway. We are fencing over 50 substations. Sincerely, this is not a process we had just started. This was an ongoing process for over 3 to 4 years now. We are fencing our substations gradually, even though there are some that are already fenced. But this has always been a gradual process. Every year we estimate a particular number of transformers that require fencing.
And some teachers expressed dissatisfaction over low turnout on school reopening day.
From the news, say some people then say they're not prepared, we get time for let them pick and go to school. And once I go around today, I say picking them not go to school better. But I encourage parents them for let them allow them picking them for go to school.
I now feel fine correct now. The time is too short. But when school open, correct, I know they with money right now. And me picking now 5 years age.
See turn up the school picking they will see now then school they around Gloucester, they're not plenty. Now few students they will see today the opening of the school.
Part of the government's free quality school education, government pays tuition for every school, every child in the public school, government owned or government assisted school. We provide core textbooks, we provide exercise books, we provide teaching and learning materials, we provide sporting equipment, we provide several things. And before, we couldn't give those things early because we didn't know how many kids were there. Beckett did not come out before second term, and PSC often came out after schools had started, so you never really knew what number to supply. But now that these things are different, we'll supply earlier. Same with subsidy. We couldn't pay subsidy before if we didn't know how many kids were there. And some schools also gamed the system, but we are slowly changing the system. We're getting better and better numbers that schools have, and so we'll be able to pay subsidies earlier than we have before.
All right, and those were top stories from the news. Coming up in the show this morning, as plans on electoral reforms are discussed, PPRC says the Commission is proposing an increase in the fee for registration of political parties from 2.5 million to 100 million yuan. We shall be discussing the move and the claims of the consortium of progressive political parties accusing the Commission of narrowing the space for political pluralism.
Right, we shall also be talking to Dr. Kandeh Yumkellah, leader of the National Grand Coalition in Parliament, on the outcome of his case, his court case, on his eligibility to contest for Parliament and the presidency. So we'll get to hear from him. If you followed the program yesterday, we spoke to good governance campaigners and advocates on the matter. So
exactly. All right, and a quote for today says, the Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to the government and represents the government in all legal proceedings. He or she is supposed to act completely independent in the public interest without interference to partisan politics. He or she must not be a cabinet minister, and that comes from Abdul Fatoma, a human rights campaigner and the chief executive officer for Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Chadi. And with that, let's take the short message from our sponsor, Local Commercial Bank, and we will be right back.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. It's part of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now we're making it right. to show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone. Don't forget to send your comments and questions to the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page, and we'll take them as we move along with today's edition of the program.
Right. Now, the Political Parties Registration Commission, PPRC, is proposing a new registration fee for political parties. Political parties used to pay 2.5 million yuan for registration. Now, the commission is proposing 100 million yuan registration fee. And political parties who tagged themselves as the consortium of progressive political parties have accused the commission of narrowing the space and undermining its own act, which gives provision for political pluralism. So in the studio this morning to discuss those concerns, we have Femi Claudius Cole, who is the chairperson for Unity Party, and also the interim head, I stand to be corrected, of the Consortium of Progressive Political Parties. Good morning and welcome to the show, Femi.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right, we also have with us Reverend James Lahai, who is the National Coordinator for National Elections Watch. Reverend, good morning and welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, good morning, Samuel and co.
All right, we must also hasten to inform our viewers and our listeners that we invited the Political Parties Registration Commission outreach and spokesperson, Lucien Memor. He gave his consent to be here, and unfortunately this morning he said he had already given his consent to another show, which he totally forgot about. But the show goes on.
Absolutely.
Femi, let's start off with your concerns. I mean, before we start talking about the proposed registration fee, you said the PPRC is not creating that space for political pluralism, and that undermines the very act that establishes the commission. Now, why did you make that accusation? On what grounds?
The first thing that the public should know is that what we're protecting is our democracy. Now, us in CORP who are speaking on this issue are already registered. So technically, this new registration fee does not impact us.
Right.
But what it does do is close the political space. So other people who may want to form a political party might not be able to, because the fees have been raised so high, it makes it prohibitive. And the Constitution speaks very clearly, even their Act speaks very clearly, that it is your right, for as long as you're a Sierra Leonean and you meet the relevant criteria, you can form a political party. You do not have to be wealthy in order for you to form a political party. And by raising the fees, that's almost, is it 800% increase? And one thing that the strategic communicator was saying is that they hired a consultant funded by EU. And the consultant went to the West African countries. And there he found that countries were charging $40,000 to register political parties. Now, I carefully did my research, and I discovered that that was a lie. Liberia, let's say Nigeria, the big brother on the West Coast, charges $2,150, which is 21,500,000 leones. Liberia charges $500. And the reason why we're saying they're closing the space is because why do you want to increase the money? Why? Do you need it? Does PPRC need the money? No, they do not. PPRC is funded from the consolidated fund. All their salaries are paid from the consolidated fund. Now, if it is not to close the political space, then why? Why? And why now? If we want to close the political space in any way, in which case you go to the Constitution.
Is that a way of, closing the political space, or that is a way to sanitize the political space? Because given we've seen political parties that are only active during elections, and after elections, we have to wait until, another 5 years to see them, in playing active politics again. And we've seen political parties being used as political stooges, as surrogates of perhaps the two main political parties. We've seen where members of political parties belonging to the All Political Parties Association in the previous regime, for example, they were just supporting the regime then. We're also seeing similar trend now, which perhaps even prompted you to forming the Consortium of Progressive Political Parties.
Yes.
So is that not a way of sanitizing the political space? Because politics should be a game that sanitizes the environment and puts structures for governments.
Oh, well, sorry, Samuel, I'm going to disagree with you
Go
on
ahead.
many fronts.
Go ahead.
I will first of all disagree with you on the choice of sanitizing. Political parties, the role as per the Constitution is to educate in a civil manner in the political space, to talk about issues, to educate. There's a specified role in the Constitution. And when, in our African context, when you start to sanitize, then I think we need to go to the Constitution and make it very clear what boundaries you want to put in place. Now, before coming on your show, I did further research, and there are parties out there that have no intention of contesting political parties. It's just to support the will of the people, to advocate for the people. Not every political party that's formed, not in Africa, not in Europe, is formed specifically, I want to be president. It can be to be a voice, to say this is wrong. And I discovered some interesting parties, if I can just quickly tell you. There's a party called the Surprise Party in the US. There's a party that in Poland, the Polish Beer Lovers Party. And they had one goal. Their goal was to stop people drinking vodka and have them drinking beer. They formed a political party. There's a party in England called the Green Party. Their focus is the environment. So if we want to do some really significant changes, let's have the round table and adjust the Constitution accordingly.
Can we get, for example, those political parties you've mentioned, their focus in those countries? It's not applicable in Sierra Leone. And especially, you spoke about the will of the people. And the PPRC's Act states clearly why you politicians can form a political party, is to shape the political will of the people. Is that happening when we have, like I said, political parties are only seen, many of them are only seen or heard about during elections?
You're right. There are parties that only rise up during the election cycle. And then we ask the question, why? Why does that happen? And then you ask, even somebody like me, I ask sometimes, once elections are done, what happens? In this case, with this administration, we had the winner say he's for inclusive governance, engaged us in State House to talk to us. And he made promises there that we would be engaged. And there's a saying where they say, one man sense, no two sense. And if you are advocating for inclusive governance, you would think there would be a forum, which we advised him, where you can actually talk to political parties. You don't need to give us hours of your time, maybe 30 minutes, maybe once every 6 months, to just brainstorm or talk or discuss. But the way politics is set up in Sierra Leone, Samuel, is the winner takes all. You win power today, everybody else becomes irrelevant. Your opinions no longer count. We don't want to hear from you, we don't want to even see you. And all those who belong to your political party, we figure out a way to sack all of them, get them all out of the way. So that winner takes all mentality.
Are you out of the way? Look at Femi
I
School.
refuse to
You're
be
very
out
vocal.
of the way.
So
I refuse to be out of the way.
So
there comes there's some risk attached to calling them out. And now I can see the PPRC has, it's almost, for me, it almost wants to look like some kind of a vendetta against COP, because the reason is we're calling them out. What you're doing is wrong. And Samuel, they hired a consultant to consult. The consultant did everything that was in his job description except consultation. Because yesterday I was making calls to political parties. The consultant called Una. Who's consultant? No. So my question is, you hired a consultant that was paid by the EU, but he didn't consult any of us. And this is a policy that will negatively impact the political space. So you would have thought the first people he would talk to would be political parties. He did not.
Stay with us, Dr. Cole. Let's talk to Reverend Lahai about this. What's the position of NEW regarding this new proposition from the Political Parties Registration Commission?
As National Election Watch, we believe the conditions for a political party to be registered is too weak. And that is creating problems in the political space.
When you say the conditions, what are you referring to?
You register your party, 2,500,000. You should have offices in regional headquarter towns. And so when elections are around the corner, you see offices. The moment the elections are over, you go to those offices, there are no offices anymore. By-elections come up, you don't see any of these political parties competing. And this is denying the country the pleasure of competition that is an ingredient of a democratic society.
So, in
For
other
example,
words, are you saying you then agree with the proposition of PPRC?
well, that's not what I am saying. Because the PPRC has put a cost. We believe that everything has a process. And like she was saying, consultation is also necessary. Even for the just concluded conference on the EOM recommendations, Election Observer Mission recommendations, I mean, everybody realized that actually to register a party with 2,500,000 is creating the opportunity for some people to come into party politics only to create mischief. Like Samuel was saying, some of these political parties are just there to give credence to either APC or SLPP. When there are sticky issues and require, like voting, you see, this is when these political parties rally most times around the political party in power. And then they will see, more political parties are in favor of this thing. And then those quality political parties, their views, their opinions, is stifled because we are now talking about numbers. Like now we have 17 registered political parties. So if 12 of those side with the ruling political party, you would not say the process is undemocratic. Yes, there are 12 of them, and only 5 are standing out. But look at the representative nature of those political parties. Some at the election will not score even 0.2% at the polls, and yet they are political parties.
So with all what you are submitting now, going back to Antonia's question, are you not supporting the move of PPRC?
I am in support of reviewing the conditions for a political party to be registered. The amount
does that include the fee?
The amount, of course. We believe that 2,500,000 is too small. For the previous two elections, 2012, 2018, presidential candidates were paying 100 million.
As candidate fee?
As candidate fee. That's the individual. Here we are talking about a whole political party, not the individual. The political parties who think this amount is so high, we are able to raise 100 million to run for presidency.
But if you're looking at it from, let's look at it from some of the examples Dr. Cole gave regarding the reasons why some political parties are formed. Now, if a political party is formed with some sort of special interest, say in the environment, and may not necessarily want to put forward a presidential candidate, then do you think it is fair for the political party to advocate for the environment to pay 100 million loans to register?
I would disagree with my colleague on that issue of why political parties register or come into being. Political parties are formed along ideologies. And the main purpose of the ideology coming into the fore as political parties is to influence decisions for that ideology to take credence. And how is that going to happen? They come and form a political party so they would win and take the position to influence.
But you might have
decisions.
a political party who wants to have their voice heard. Say, if we're taking environment, for example, they might just want to advocate that the person who is appointed Minister of Environment comes from their party and not necessarily put forward a president of the entire nation.
And that is only possible when you form a political party. You have pressure groups.
It is not limited to forming a political party,
exactly.
But it could be one of the reasons why a political party is formed.
We seem to be saying the same thing. You do not need to be a political party to advocate for clean environment. You do not need to be a political party to advocate against drug abuse.
All right.
You do not need to be a political party.
Just to put a rest on that argument there. So what you're saying is, if anybody has the intention to form a political party to advocate on a social or economic issue, then it is not worthy of being formed into a political party.
We believe that every political party is a government in waiting.
All right then. So with regards to the fee, which PPRC has proposed, you have said that you believe that the 2.5 million leones is simply not enough and there needs to be an increase. The PPRC is now proposing 100 million leones. Where do you stand on that? You still haven't given a clear answer.
My stance, like
is it too high? Is it too low?
I cannot determine that. I told you earlier that this requires a process. There must be consultations.
Let's just have...
Because this is going to affect individuals as well as political parties.
So let's ask you,
just like she was saying they were not consulted, we were also not consulted.
So Reverend, let's assume now, hypothetically speaking, no consultation was done, but just in your thinking, would you propose that, based on the submission you've made, by the way, that the 2.5 million leones, breeds influx of some problems and things in the political space. So you're saying that that's too small. So it should be increased, correct?
It has. It has.
All right.
You see, our focus at National Election Watch is not only on the fees
right.
as a criteria to be registered.
We'll come to the other things.
Exactly. Since the consultants did not do enough consultation, according to you, AYV did some consultation on what people think about the proposed fee. So let's just hear from Sierra Leoneans within the city of Freetown and see what they think about 100 million leones for political parties registration. We'll be back.
Really necessary for letting raise the money. Why? You know, this will make we all get a solid mind and we all farm for let we put this country ahead of we. Because the money is so small, that they make people and they look down on election and make funny about this country. But if they put them so exorbitant, you'll find out people will put their money and then they focus on what they do.
My own contribution was to give, even though I'm not a politician, but I think that money they book. You know, many try adjust, let it like I did. You understand? My own business, now one man business I do. I'm not a politician, but now my own contribution.
Okay, and all right, it seems for me to explain. It all come for work for the government for the benefits of the country. So the benefit of the country, okay, now they go penalize them. That's again. One for let the money, then bring the money they can't do. It's so hard. In fact, me say I'm a member of a party.
Well, I mean, I feel to say for left 5 in there. Because the amount of money they, political party get for strong, for get that kind of money there. But if they reduce some, you go find out say more political party go tend for register. And me not go look at say the more the merrier. The more people political party they register, now the more problem. Because we don't get enough political party there now. And the other thing we me look again, where they don't pay formally, where you don't pay that 250 million day, you don't register. But I think for every 5 years. But now every 2 years I make to understand again you get for renew the registration. I think to save them don't pay that 250 day, then get for renew every 2 years now burden for the political party then.
And we're back. Those were some views, you know, of Sierra Leoneans on the proposed fee for registration, 100 million leones.
Yeah.
And, you know, as usual, multiple sides regarding the issue. But, Reverend, apart from the fee, you're talking about certain things which also need to be reviewed for political parties or people intending to form political parties to register. Now, what are some of those things, if you could just mention briefly?
Firstly, we believe that before becoming a political party, you have to be a movement.
Which has been done.
No way.
But that's part of the criteria PPRC puts forward.
But that is putting forward.
I mean, that's for all political parties that have been registered, they've all stemmed from being a movement.
You see, when you talk about movements, it's not just a name. It has to be in existence.
Right.
It has to have some impact. It has to have some visibility. It has to have a presence. It cannot just come out and what you hear is political party. Movement is not in the mind. Movement is practical. So that at least you have a following in those periods where you are existing as a movement.
So if we were to go, if we were to give practical examples, for example, you have the Kandeh Yumkellah movement, the KKY movement. You had the ADM, the Alliance Democratic Movement. I mean, those are the two big movements that were later transformed into political parties, which means that has been the pattern.
In fact, it is the reversal.
Go ahead.
From political parties, they become movements. Because you hear first NGC, and then you start to hear about KKY. NGC is a breakaway from the SLPP. Kandeh Yumkellah wanted the flag bearership opportunity of the SLPP. Maybe he realized he was not going to make it in that political party. And so he decided then let it be NGC. And then you have a KKY movement. And then it's the same with the PMDC. The PMDC, there was this convention in Makeni where Charles Magai lost to Berewa. He came out and said, I will go and consult my people. The next thing is there is PMDC and there is the movement. It has to be the other way. Let there be a sustained movement that graduates into a political party. Because if you have a sustained movement, you have your presence in almost every district, even if not in every district. The issue of the criteria of having an office in every regional headquarter town will not even come into play again, because you've already been in existence for 2 years or so, and then you graduate into a political party. It becomes a continuity. You even have a way now of making people buy into what your focus is, what your ideology is. I am seeing some political parties doing that now, but it would have been the reverse. Is it like the NURP, this party that is led by
Jonathan Sandy?
Jonathan Sandy. You see, they are making like their presence felt now in certain communities in terms of like movements. They are going out with activities. They are preaching their ideology. This is the thing, this is the foundation. This is where a political party should emerge from. So that you have now people that are like minds, that believe in the thing you stand for. This will even, Samuel, this will even help avoid this situation of having one man or one woman owned political parties. You see, political parties should not be ownership of an individual. It is a collective ownership. But then, in the present circumstance, it is the person with the money who comes to register. Now, my political party. So this is creating the problem. Like now, I wanted to cite the example of the by-election to take place in Kwenadugu district for the chairmanship of the council and councillor for one of the wards. And there was one party that exhibited interest. A day was set for them to go and do the nomination. The whole day, they did not appear. And so they ended up having just APC and SNPP contesting those elections.
Which is not a new phenomenon in Sierra Leone.
And which is wrong.
So let me ask this question. As we talk about the criteria, being set for the registration of new political parties, you mentioned the conference that was held at New Brookfields Hotel by, to discuss the recommendations from Election Observers Mission. And one of the critical things that was discussed had to do with the political parties pushing for government funding. Government should fund them. And with many political parties, what's the burden that will bring to government, and what's the level of independence of these political parties should that proposal be taken into consideration by the government?
Funding political parties will not in any way undermine their independence. Otherwise, institutions that are being funded by government, we would say, are not independent.
But that's the complaint.
So, but then,
yeah, go ahead.
The National Electoral Commission that conducts, you see, in fact, we do mix up matters. And that is where, as a country, we have our problem. We want to believe that the political party that is in power has ownership of the state. This is state resources. So if they are going to give money to political parties, it is from state coffers. And it will also go to the political party that is in power.
Reverend,
but I am not saying I am in for that kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's not what I am saying.
You are talking about what the ideal situation should be. But if we're putting it in context of what is happening here in Sierra Leone, you have state institutions being influenced by political individuals, state institutions being led by political figures, people who are heading political parties, people who hold positions in political parties. And this has always been the argument regarding whether leader of a political party or chairman in a political party should be minister or should head a government ministry or department or agency. And these recommendations have been put forward several times. So we cannot close our eyes to the reality on ground,
Perhaps we can have a bite on that.
You see, I come from the background of election observation. And our observation is evidence-based. So we try to move away from perceptions and look at what the facts are. That are verifiable.
But Reverend, with the scenario Antonia just narrated, Reverend, we've seen situations where government ministers have influenced elections. Perhaps their influence or interference have always led to chaos, violence in elections, and you're talking about observing elections. And these are evidence-based things we're talking about. Be it under APC, be it under SLPP, we've seen these things happening. We've covered those things on AYV in real time.
Sure. What I am saying, they are not influencing.
What are they doing?
They are committing crimes.
Right.
They are committing crimes. They are doing what the law is saying they should not do.
All right.
And they require to be punished for that. So, but they are not influencing because we have seen in 2007, you have a political party in power, yes, losing elections to an opposition political party. The same has happened in 2018 with the political party in governance losing to an opposition. So these are evidences to show that irrespective of how people would want to interfere with the processes of the elections, they actually do not have that authority to influence the process.
All right. Let's hear from Dr. Cole on this. We've made several arguments here with Reverend from NEW, and he has, stated his position first clearly on the proposed fees, saying not just the fees need to be reviewed, perhaps other criteria as well need to be checked when it comes to the registration of political parties. So you can comment on that and perhaps all the other issues as well.
Reverend really threw quite a bit into that mix. And at one point, I was actually processing, and Reverend represents who again? News?
National Election Watch.
I was almost thinking, Reverend, that you were representing the party in power. But that notwithstanding, let us take it from the beginning. Political parties, not all are able to participate in elections. And Reverend, where you actually disappoint me, no disrespect meant, is that you are uninformed. Political parties, those of us who ran for the presidency did not pay 100 million. We paid 30 million. And he says that parties become parties and then become movements. Again, Reverend is uninformed. You actually become a movement before. That is a condition. That's not something new that they were discussing. That is what is on ground as we speak. You have to be a movement, and then you can transition into a political party. Now, with Reverend speaking the way he's speaking, I have anxiety for the political space. Now, political parties, according to the Constitution, can be formed. It's in the PPRC Act. A group of people, so long as you're not having like people from one tribe, you have a mixture of people, can form a political party. Now, the APC nor the SLPP started off as a big party. They say from acorns, oak trees grow. A small political party took everybody by surprise and won the elections in France. So you're not going to put a criteria to say, if you want to be a political party, you must run for presidency. Even the last election, how many presidential candidates? There were parties who didn't put forward a candidate. And you don't have to.
Probably even because they couldn't afford the fee.
The 30 million. And you don't have to. The PPRC Act, the Constitution, there's nowhere where it says, if you form a political party, you must. You absolutely have to run a presidential candidate. There are parties that are formed for all sorts of things. As I just exhibited, there's the Green Party, there's this, but leave the political space open. And the way Reverend spoke, as if forming a political party is so simple. You go, you pay your 2.5 million and you engage your offices and bam, you're a political party. It was the most disconnected, disjointed, disorganized, time-wasted, emotion-bursting process that I have ever encountered. It's almost like a bottomless pit. Mm-hmm. The process to register a political party in Sierra Leone is probably one of the worst on the globe. So I'm a little bit peeved that the way Reverend is saying it, like it's simple. Now, if political parties don't have offices everywhere, Femi Claudius School, the chairperson of Unity Party, I do not have offices in Bo and Kenema. Did you ever come and say, Ms. Claudia School or PPIC, why don't you have an office? And I will explain and I will show them evidences that the moment the SLPP won the election, those two landlords gave us notice to quit. And I have been struggling to get offices in those two places. On 3 occasions, my Secretary General took the physical cash. At the point of payment, I born SLPP and they rent me office. So, but nobody has engaged us to hear what our struggles are. And then it got to a stage, I'm like, you know what? Let's figure out if we can buy a piece of land.
And having offices in all the regions are part of the criteria.
Headquarter town.
Yes, yes. So I said, you know what, we had a meeting. Well, let's look and see if we can buy a piece of land. And let's build our own office. I can't go through this. Maybe the APC will win and then they'll kick you out and then the SLPP will come. I said, let's see if we can buy a piece of land. That was worse. That was actually worse. And I'm using people who are on the ground, who are natives of that region, and it's an impossible task. So the bar is already set way high. So please, Reverend, don't speak as if it is the most simple, seamless process. It is a pain in the royal butt trying to register a political party. But that notwithstanding, he's saying we believe. Who believes? Reverend says we believe that political party. No, we don't believe. We go by the Constitution. That is our Bible in the country. We cannot cut and paste. You are not going to be the judge, you be the jury, and you be the executioner. Leave the political space alone.
Let me ask this question, Femi Claudius School. Do you agree that there are some political parties who are formed and do not necessarily perform the functions which are described in the PPRC Act or the Constitution, but the reasons why political parties are to be formed?
Well, the Constitution doesn't give you to say, if you are not able to do this, then you should not form. Once you are able to meet the criteria laid out, if we have a problem with it as it is, then let us all come together and change it. Now, what I do agree with the Reverend is that the fees can be raised. It can be raised. It maybe should be raised. But don't make it prohibitive, is my point. And then, that's not all that COP is concerned about. We're also concerned, A, with the lack of consultation, and B, I have questions. I'm sad that the PPRC did not honor your invitation because we have questions. And that is, what do you do as the governing body of political parties? What do you do to enhance our performance? What do you do to dialogue with us? What is your benefit?
We would ask those questions. Let's bring in our viewers and our listeners into the conversation. Just quickly, we have hundreds of messages on Facebook, but we can only take few. I totally agree with PPRC. Make Adolf Mandem Fen, make Adolf Mandem and Greg Mandem come out bien with politics business. Aman Sakroma is saying, proposals should be granted and implemented. If your supporters believe in your leadership, they will campaign and raise funds for you. Too many Alaki parties are registering without doing anything to stand up for citizens. So I'm welcoming this idea of increment. Patrick Wuri is saying, look like people okay, I'm not going to, please do, I'm not going to mention names here. So just keep that in mind. Madam Cole, if your supporters believe in your party ideology, they will raise funds for your party. 20 million, please, PPRC. Patrick is saying, winners take all is great. This is the reason why we need strong opposition parties in Sierra Leone that have a thick skin and not afraid to die for their people. All right, 2 more messages. Frederick Thomas is saying, Madam Cole has been one of the most vocal politicians for bread and butter issues since elections. The NGC and Unity Party have done more advocacy work than the main opposition party, APC. Kudos, Madam Cole, for advocating for the voiceless. Osam, Alvin Conte Morgan is saying, in democracy, right or wrong is not determined by conscience. It is determined by numbers. That's the sad part of democracy. Guys would have to forgive. We have so many messages that will not permit us to go through, unfortunately.
So I think you can respond to the text messages, but you know, in addition to that, since the PPRC has not really consulted with political parties on this issue, how do you plan to deal with it then?
Well, I was actually on another station with the gentleman who didn't show up. And he was saying that after extensive consultations, and you know, the height of disrespect was that he was insisting, we were both on the show, and there he is, right in my face. And he's insisting that I am saying I wasn't consulted. I'm like, no, you don't make such an implication. And not only I was not consulted, others. So what's the way forward? The document has already been prepared, as he said. The document has already been presented to the commissioners. I think we need to start seeing our commissioners. Where are they? Where are they, these decision makers that the public has entrusted to protect their democracy? PPIC alone and a few people in PPIC are all we see, and they're not the true custodians of this. The commissioners are. And you were talking to one of the chairman of the commission, who was feigning ignorance of an event that happened in his own office under his own watch. And I am disappointed that none of the commissioners are being a little bit vocal. You are the people who are the decision makers within that commission. You need to come out of your spaces and start talking to political parties. And the PPIC has to really reconfigure their role. But I tell you something interesting, is that when I'm doing my research, I discovered that there's no such thing as a PPIC in most of these West African countries. I didn't go Europe. I went pure West Africa. The registration of political parties comes on the neck. In Nigeria it does, in Liberia it does, in Ghana it does, in Guinea it does, in the Gambia it does. It comes on the neck. And quite frankly, if anybody were to solicit my opinion, I honestly think that PPRC, and you know what their boast is? We can deregister. He said on radio with me the other day, we can deregister and two no more party go left now. And I'm like, yes, then you won't have a job. And then we can give you a room in NEC. you then put yourself, you literally shoot yourself in the head. So I am like, why this commission? And now they're actually soliciting more powers along the lines of some of the things that the Reverend is saying, whereby you want to now dissect and bisect political parties. When Reverend is quoting that there was a by-election where the candidate pulled out, as an election watcher, did he go back to that political party and say, what happened? You are partly responsible also for the democratic space. Did you go back to that political party and say, what's happening? Why would you pull out your candidate? We are promoting this plurality in politics. But he's conveniently now actually using that as, so what did you do? And that's my question to PPRC. What are you doing to political parties? Now you know it's a winner-takes-all mentality. How do you come into that space and say, look, guys, we need to talk. It may not be in our act, but we want to see plurality. We want to see the democratic space opened. But that's not their line. They actually cherry-pick the political parties they want to engage. And the PPIC, for some unknown reason, is totally in love with Upper SL. Upper SL is an appendage of the SLPP party. That's an open secret.
But if you're saying that, I mean, this National Secretary General of APA belongs to the APC.
And I'm going to publish their resignation letters of all the parties that have resigned. And it's as if, and look, the PPIC, I wonder, are there people there who are not lettered? Because we send letters to them, and it's as if you didn't read it, you didn't see it.
Thank you very much, Femi Claudius. Everyone in a minute. What do you look forward to seeing? Because it appears, I mean, there's so much rancor within the political space right now. I mean, the pandemonium is so bold.
That's normal when you talk about politics.
Wow.
Because these are people who want to contest to power, and they are having different viewpoints. And each and every one of them is trying to make a case for their own purpose. I will not comment on the opinion of Madam Claudius Cole with regards my being uninformed or speaking as if I am representing the
party in office.
The party in office, because she herself, from her presentation, has negated that statement by falsely indicating that a political party from nowhere came up and won the election in France, and also has gone further to say that there is need for an increase
I agree.
in the fee to register as a political party. So I will not comment.
Just
so I
as
will
a way
not
to
comment
round
on
up
that
now,
opinion.
what would be the function of NEW with regards to intervening in this matter? It's almost 9 o'clock and we have to.
Yes, we believe that PPRC should go back to the drawing board to ensure that they actually engage those who will be affected by this increase, so that a consensus is built around what would actually be the criteria for registering political parties.
All right.
Sorry, can I just buttress something?
In 2 seconds.
This bill, this plan of increase does not affect parties that are already registered. That seems to be getting lost in the shuffle.
Right.
What we are talking about now is other parties
New
who may want...
new parties in the mix. Thank you very much.
And this is why we say you're closing the democratic space.
Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation this morning. It's now 9 o'clock in our studios here in Freetown. We're taking a quick break with the summary of the news, and we'll be back with a fresh conversation. Stay tuned.
AYV International opens new office and studios in London.
The STV team in South Africa, they were very impressed with the presentation. When Doc came back to me and said, congratulations, you're doing well, we're moving forward slowly. And finally, in January 2021, I got the email that, yes, let's start to discuss properly, technical. So that is where we are. And on the 25th of August, We are now live in Africa with DSTV channel T9. On the 17th of September, we're going to formally launch the channel in Sierra Leone. That is transnational, multi-choice and UIP. Today I got a call from the team. I spoke to Natalie. She said the CEO of DSTV had done
6 years ago, 7 years ago, Ambassador Navo invited me to look at what is now an empire. We went to a compound not far from my office, Wesley Street. It was a ghost town. And today we are celebrating that dream. It is going beyond. Ambassador Navo, thank you very much. You're giving a lot to Sierra Leoneans.
ETSA embarks on concrete fencing of transformers in Freetown.
There came a time whereby almost every day, every other day, we receive reports of vandalism in one area or the other. This go to stage that became a growing concern. Recently in Guinea, we have about 5 substations that have been vandalized by unknown persons. This is happening throughout the country in all of our operational areas, which is very challenging for us as ETSA. We first of all started by ensuring that we rehabilitate some of our substations that had problems with the locks. Ensure that we change most of the locks, and also we undertook some maintenance activity. We had earlier on identified areas that are exposed to unknown persons. So currently we are working on 50 substations that work is underway. We are fencing over 50 substations. Sincerely, this is not a process we have just started. This was an ongoing process for over 3 to 4 years now. We are fencing our substations gradually, even though there are some that are already fenced, but this has always been a gradual process. Every year we estimate a particular number of transformers that require fencing.
And some teachers expressed dissatisfaction over low turnout on school reopening day.
From the news, say some people then say they're not prepared, they're not get time for let them picking and go to school. And once I go around today, I say picking them not go to school better. But I they encourage parents them for let them allow them picking them for go to school.
I now feel fine correct now. The time is too short. But we school open. Correct, I know they with money right now. And me picking now 5 years age.
See turn up the school picking they will see now then school they around Gloucester, they're not plenty. Now few students they will see today the opening of the school.
Part of the government's free quality school education, government pays tuition for every school, every child in a public school, government owned or government assisted school. We provide core textbooks, we provide exercise books, we provide teaching and learning materials, we provide sporting equipment, we provide several things. And before, we couldn't give those things early because we didn't know how many kids were there. Beckett did not come out before second term, and PSC often came out after schools had started, so you never really knew what number to supply. But now that these things are different, we'll supply earlier. Same with subsidy. We couldn't pay subsidy before we didn't know how many kids were there. And some schools also gamed the system, but we are slowly changing the system. We're getting better and better numbers that schools have, and so we'll be able to pay subsidies earlier than we have before.
And we're back with Wake Up Sierra Leone here on your home of credible, factual and balanced news, AYV. And don't forget, we're also streaming live on Facebook at the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page, where you can drop your comments and questions. So we'll see what you think and hear, from you on the issues we're discussing this morning.
Right.
I'm sure you've seen some of the footage from the AYV UK launch.
Yep.
AYV opened its new office in the UK, London. And there was I would call it a mini celebration because the big one is yet to come.
Exactly.
And the CEO of AYV, Ambassador Anthony Navo Jr. was there along with other staff of the UK branch. So I guess we take a look at some of the highlights of the event and we'll be back here with Wake Up Sierra Leone. Stay tuned.
Yes, I think the DSTV team in South Africa, they were very impressed with the presentation. Then Doc came back to me and said, congratulations, you're doing well, we're moving forward slowly. And finally in January 2021, I got the email that, yes, let's start to discuss properly, technically. So that is where we are. And on the 25th of August, we are now live in Africa on DSTV channel T990. On the 17th of September, we're going to formally launch the channel in Sierra Leone. That is transnational, multi-choice, and AYV. Today I got a call from the team. I spoke to Natalie. She said the CEO of DSTV had done a video for the people of Sierra Leone and Africa as a whole, because the onboarding of AYV and DSTV, they took it extremely serious. I must say here, Sierra Leone, well, AYV Sierra Leone is the third country that had been onboarded with DSTV after Ghana and Nigeria. We are number 3 in West Africa. There is no other country after Ghana and Nigeria and now Sierra Leone who is on DSTV. No. All the other countries are East, South, and Northern Africa. So thank you, Doc. Thank you for that. And thanks to my team, like I said.
What I can say today, I'm here to witness a dream coming true. 7 years ago, Ambassador Navo invited me to look at what is now an empire. We went to a compound not far from my office, Wesley Street. It was a ghost town. And today we are celebrating that dream. It is going beyond. Ambassador Navo, thank you very much. You're giving a lot to Sierra Leoneans. And my last message is the diaspora in England. This is another link for you, not only to your country, to the rest of Africa. Make the best out of it.
Congratulations. I think whatever else anyone would say, the government and the people of Sierra Leone will be proud that we have a junior level. We are proud that we have AYV. Because we know what communication means, we know what communication represents, and I think we all, as Sierra Leoneans, especially those of us in the press, must be grateful to President Leo and his government for expunging this infamous 1965 thing from our law books. I think it gives you a lot of freedom, and freedom of speech, freedom, association, are key pillars of any democracy. Once again, thank you.
Right, welcome back. What you just saw there were highlights of the launching event in the UK of AYV's new office. So congratulations to the team. Congratulations to you, Samuel.
Congratulations to you too, Antonia.
All right, you know, stay tuned. Obviously, there's more of that coming. As I mentioned, that may just be the mini launch. So watch out, something big coming through sometime soon. But now we continue with Wake Up Sierra Leone. Now in the studio this morning, we have been joined by Honorable Dr. Kandeh Yumkellah, leader of the National Grand Coalition in Parliament, and he's here to talk about the outcome of his court matter on his eligibility to contest for the presidency and Member of Parliament, amongst other things. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, listeners.
Right, so I guess congratulations. This has been a long journey, you know, stemming 3 years back when the matter was taken to court. And we saw your message there on Twitter and some of the messages you had regarding the matter. But just to hear it from the horse's mouth, how do you feel about the ruling?
Well, I feel exonerated at last. I feel grateful to the justices for their courage in looking at the facts presented and taking the judgment they did. Second, more importantly, I feel happy for Sierra Leone that again, with the same courage, the justices looked ahead at the demographics of the country, its context, and made pronouncements on the whole issue of citizenship and participation in politics, and set some records straight so that other people do not have to go through what I went through. But I guess I had to go through the grind and suffer a little bit for others to have an opportunity to participate in government. So I'm very grateful, and thank the party, my supporters, family, and others who stood by me, because when these things happen to you, there's a lot of vilification, a lot of negativity. You pray that you have the strength and the emotional intelligence to stay the course. And I thank, more importantly, finally, my legal team, a robust team of experienced lawyers, very prominent names as well, who went through the system and meticulously presented the facts and stayed on watching the case as it evolved. So thanks to all of them.
Right. If I look at, you know, some of the, you know, the thread you tweeted earlier on, you know, last week following the ruling, you mentioned being happy that the ruling would benefit millions of Sierra Leoneans who are abroad. But several people have said that the ruling doesn't necessarily clear the question mark which still remains about what the Citizenship Act is saying compared to what the Constitution is saying about dual citizens participating in the political space. So perhaps you could clarify, you know, what you meant by that and what this means.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, not a judge. I go by what the majority of the judges said. 3 out of 5 made it clear that as long as you have citizenship by birth, that's important, by birth, you can run for office. They did not mince words. They were very clear about their statements. Yesterday, they released their judgments. And what is very important is also the presiding judge. Presiding judge is the Honorable Justice Brown Mack, the senior ranking member. He is very clear that citizenship by birth matters, that it makes you electable. And I quote something he says on page 37. There is no disability attached to dual nationality for the purpose of being eligible as an elector under Public Elections Act 2012. And in making the case for me, for example, he said, I cannot vacate my seat. Yeah? And I quote him now. It seems to me that he could, not so long as he continues to hold Sierra Leonean citizenship. That's Brown Mark. The Honorable Justice Thompson also is very clear in her conclusions, similar to Honorable Echo Roberts, making the same case about citizenship, that as long as you hold the Sierra Leonean citizenship by birth, that's important, being born by a Sierra Leonean mother or father, you are eligible to run for any office. So if you're looking at majority, and in this case, they are not unanimous, and in America, in UK common law, you don't have to have unanimous decision. In fact, that's why all give their own opinions. One was very clear, commander did not agree with that. Okay, but that's fine. And that's for the law schools to see the legal jurisprudence and the scholarliness of what they've done and what it means in the future when some of these young lawyers themselves find themselves in the Supreme Court. So 3 out of 5 is a majority opinion, and including the presiding judge. Because they spent a lot of time on what does citizenship mean, going from 76, following all the amendments up to 2006. And that is the key. Citizenship by birth.
Going by the pronouncement of Justice Brown-Mark, it means you should not have renounced your citizenship in the US.
Indeed. But hey, as I say, you go through what you go through, and that's part of leadership. Sometimes you gotta suffer for sanity to prevail and for others to benefit. Mandela had to be in jail 20-something years to get liberation for his people.
The question that follows that, Honorable Yumkellah, is the fact that the judgment leaves, more confusion than clarity for many people, because they feel, and they've advanced arguments that so long as you are a dual national, you should not be elected. If you go to Section 76 of the 1991 Constitution, these are, offices you should not hold. For fear of where you're going to put your allegiance and things like that. And you are one of those pushing. You renounced your U.S. citizenship, and you contested for the election, and you voted in as a member of parliament. But now you are pushing for them to be allowed to be elected as members of parliament, for example. What is in it for you in terms of governance, especially with this push you're making?
I think the important thing is what is in it for the hundreds of thousands of Sierra Leoneans and more in the future generation. That is the key here. The judges are clear, and that's the Supreme Court giving that clarity. Their job is to interpret the law consistent with the Constitution. What we need to do now as Parliament, which Parliament should have done in 2006, that's the key. In 2006, Parliament itself should have said, hey, we take out 76(1)(a). Because we've allowed people now to be dual nationals. Just take out 76(1)(a). This is why doing things well and properly matters. Not rushing bills. Last minute, you want to do it and pass it. And I have watched now, thank God I've been in Parliament, learning the process, what we had to do with a number of bills, and I give credit to my colleagues who have been there before, who say, wait a minute, go to the Parent Act. And once I said, oh, there is a father and mother to an act, they say the context matters, go back and check. And they insist. You don't see us doing it a lot on the floor. But when we're in the legislative committee, people demand Parent Acts. They go back, they take it to see that you're not contradicting. You have one law giving you with one hand, another law taking it. That's what should have been done in 2006. That we've allowed dual citizenship, but when the Constitution was done, we didn't allow it in 73. Now that we're allowing it, we have to tidy it up. Take out 76(1)(a). It wasn't done. My bill does that. My bill says just expunge. And I know there are lawyers and judges who also recommended that to the late Peter Tucker when he was revising the constitutions, saying, hey, we should expunge 76(1)(a). So my bill, that's why you see in my tweet, I say what we need to do now as Parliament is also tidy things up, complement. Just say, you expunge. And I hope we will do it because the government has also sent in a dual nationality bill. Mine is there. But I noticed they published theirs, but they didn't publish mine. What's the problem here? And that's the beauty. You have two bills, you take it to the legislative committee, and they harmonize. Because we cover stuff they have not covered. Because why? I have a set of lawyers and legal scholars who are thorough. Some here, some external. When I don't know something, I just send it to them and I watch how they debate. I'm not a lawyer, I just sit back. But understanding, so what we have done, we are more thorough. We've gone in to the Constitution to see places where you don't have an entrenched clause, but they touch on dual nationality, 75 and 76.
So Dr. Yumkellah, this brings me back to my question, the question I asked earlier. Now, since this law still exists in our Constitution, in Section 76, and the argument being put forward is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, so every other law which is formed is then secondary. Given that that's the case, some you know, civil rights, good governance campaigners are saying some of the arguments put forward, including ones that do favor you, are somewhat unlawful because the Constitution still stands as the main, the big law.
As I said, it's taking things to their logical conclusion. What needs to be done, irrespective of the case I had, we had a bill in Parliament. Yeah, we had a bill that we had submitted to Parliament. Yeah, in spite of my case, government has also, the Attorney General, sent a bill to Parliament on dual nationality. And so, what this case has done, if we didn't understand the law properly, what this case has done by the judges is to help us understand, one, what citizenship means, and number two, to say, look, based on pure citizenship law, people can run for office, even if they hold a dual nationality. Yeah? So it means for us parliamentarians, it's so easy. Because now, if we didn't know, the Supreme Court has given the clear guidance that we needed to say, all right, we just expunge 76(1)(a). It's as simple as that. And then tweak the other areas that need tweaking based on what we have proposed. So the good news is, that's a good news, both government and the opposition have bills in Parliament to deal with dual nationality. That we should deal with quickly the moment we reopen October. All of this, quote unquote, uncertainty is settled. But based on what has been done, because remember, yeah, any dual national can run now. You challenge, say, go to court. What will the judge depend on? On what the Supreme Court said.
The precedents that have been set.
And what they've said. So that's, and where do you take it next? Appeal court, Supreme Court. But that's what you'll get back. It's the same judges. They say, no, we're clear. We don't say things twice. We say it once for the record. And what they did is thorough. Honorable Brown Mark's summation is 39 pages. You look at it, some of them 20, 25, they took time. Really, and maybe that's why they needed 3 years. I don't know. But I suffered for 3 years. What was supposed to be 1 week became 3 years.
And that's the question. Now we have this as judicial precedents, which automatically becomes law. But like Antonia mentioned, every other law created out of the Constitution is supreme. And we still have that in our Constitution. Debarring the likes of others who've not renounced their dual citizenship, unlike you. So your case was a bit unique because you've renounced your citizenship. So people were looking forward to the judges making a clear judgment on whether or not you holding your US citizenship and your Sierra Leonean citizenship, you can still go to Parliament. I know your bill covers, you can go to Parliament and make some exemptions, but how does that work? If you are eligible to be voted in as a member of Parliament, which again is a criteria for you to be eligible to be voted in as the president, and you say, no, but you can come in as members of Parliament, but you will not be eligible to become Speaker, Vice President, or President. How does that work?
Yeah, for me, it's a philosophical, moral position. I truly believe, me, Kandeh Yumkellah, that you cannot be president and be a dual national. It's my belief. Yeah? We're giving you the highest office of state, total fidelity to the nation, to the Constitution, and the flag. That's my belief as a person. I believe it. And so even in my bill, I exempt it. I mean, in our bill, because it's done by several of us, but it's being advocated for strongly by me. It's a belief I have that at that level, first gentleman, vice president, speaker, number 3 gentleman, total fidelity to the Republic of Sierra Leone and its flag and its constitution and its people. It's my belief. Others have told me that's why the privilege will be wonderful. Others have told me up to yesterday, Dr. Yumkellah, we have more. I said, so what are they? Some young men, our head of army. I say, you have a point. The head of the IG of police. You know, so people now are doing their own lists to say, but there's some sensitive roles that requires total fidelity to the Constitution of Sierra Leone. And I buy some of that argument. You have to see, I just hope for you, the younger generation, you see what the whole fiasco has created. This is the politics we're looking for. That you're debating public policy, laws, and certain values in society that will help moving forward and improving our polity. That is what this debate has caused. And I'm telling you, young people, they're giving me a list. Doctor, where that debates come, IG no for DDO, IG no for be dual national. And that's what you want. They're contributing, creating more space, but saying, hey, we need exemptions. And my philosophy in person, that's why I say to you, I still believe, Mr. President, Mr. VP, Mr. Speaker, no.
Then that calls for a review of the criteria for you to become the president of Sierra Leone.
So go to, you see, that's why my bill is wonderful, done by some good legal scholars. Section 41, we touch it, give an exemption. We went back to the election of speaker, we put it in. So we already introduced exemptions because we wanted a debate in Parliament to say, well, what more can you exempt? Should everybody be dual national? Maybe not. Maybe not intelligence services. Maybe not some roles. Yesterday I was debating with some lawyers about Chief Justice. And there we left it out for good reason, because we debated it as well 3 years ago when we were working on the bill. But some are telling me, no, we don't want the Chief Justice as well to have dual nationality. Somebody said, head of NRA. We don't want somebody collecting our money. And then say suddenly, I'm a citizen of the Cayman Islands, you know. So people are beginning to think, and that's what we need in society. What will make accountability work? What will make society work? And people really do good their job professionally, but also having fidelity. So people are coming up with certain other professional areas. Again, it's based on philosophy.
What you're calling for, Honorable, what you're calling for is inviting me to the dinner table, asking me to eat the dessert, but not the main course. I mean,
I'm asking you.
Let me take the starter and not invite me to the main meal.
What I'm asking you is, come to Parliament, serve in Parliament. I'm asking you to serve in as a minister, other public positions. We need your experience, we need your expertise and your knowledge, subject to Sierra Leonean law, legally, okay? But my friend, we're having dinner now, yeah? Everything is on the menu. However, it's a dinner with a menu. There are certain other items you want to eat, you get to do something more. If you want to run for president after you've been a good parliamentarian, you're sure of yourself, do the next thing. That's my philosophy. But it's not, if you look at the government's bill, no, that's not their philosophy. They say anything, any level, the little I've read of their own bill.
And that's what's being gazetted.
That's what is being gazetted. So for them, and it is good for society that we have divergence of opinion as to how far you can go.
Right.
You, the next generation, you can join in. Young people send letters the day we announce the privilege to say, well, I also agree with the other side that says, when you want to be president, total fidelity. So it is good for society, but it's my own philosophy.
All right, well, stay with us, Dr. Yumkellah. We're going to take a quick break so that we probably get a sip of water, and we'll be back with Wake Up Sierra Leone. Let's just get some interesting facts there for you and we'll be back. Right, welcome back to Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV Television. We're discussing the outcome of the Supreme Court matter between David Fona and Dr. Kandeh Yumkellah, on the issue of dual citizenship and contesting for the presidency or member of parliament. We still have Dr. Yumkellah with us in the studio, but now we're going to hear from you out there watching. You've been sending your messages to our Facebook page. So, Samuel, what are the people saying?
Right, Hassan Mansour Kabu is saying the two-sim is a bad heart law brought by APC, especially JFK, to enhance his political chances by using Gabidon to attack KKY. And John Bonos is saying justice has prevailed as the truth has only one name. And Wells is saying, but seriously, why should any serious government try to exclude its bona fide citizens from participating in the political space of their country of birth, if not for their dishonest fare? KKY, there is a space for you in the SLPP. NGC will not lead you to the destination you really want. And my concern is if you can win the seat of parliament come next parliamentary elections, think twice. That's a campaign for you to go back to SLPP. Congratulations. Okay, I'm skipping the complimentary messages. KKY is a showman. Okay, I said I'll skip those. Honestly, KKY looks calm and well assured by his looks. In the past, he was eloquent, but so agitated thinking of his lawsuits. Maybe hampered his political career. But alhamdulillah, the KKY thing twice. Only the SLPP. All right, Marcelo Vashini is saying, it is a disgrace. Okay, no political attacks. Lawyer Gabidon, Fudesila, that's too harsh. The Sierra Leone 1991 constitution in itself is marred with a lot of confusion. A Ghanaian parliamentarian who renounced his Canadian citizenship was still evicted from parliament. The recent judgment should not be based on the 2006 Citizens Act. As long as the issues about the dual citizenship is not well addressed in the constitution needs to be first cleared before acting on the 2006 Act. With God by his side, all right, KKY, you're real. When I see selfish and corrupt masters of our economy, we're not here to name names, especially people who are not here to respond, please. You can see KKY adding prefix to the judge, honorable, when the matter was ruled in his favor. But if now be the other way around, like with the big English, bash EK said. I mean, just the last message I would take is Frederick Domas. All right, another complimentary message there. I think I have to hold it down.
All right, thank you very much, Samuel. Interesting comments there. But, someone mentioned something we have been talking about, which is the issue with the Constitution. Right. And one of the judges there, Glenna Thompson, made it clear that there's actually no matter to discuss because you had renounced your dual citizenship. Right. So they went on and on and on about this issue of dual citizenship. So if we're championing the matter now with regards to the Constitution and the bill you have put forward, and now as you've also alluded or intimated that the president's office has also, presented a bill. How far are we going to go with amending such laws when we are not really focused on perhaps touching the Constitution, the constitutional review in itself?
His Excellency the President has promised us, including his speeches in Parliament, that he will work on the recommendations from the Honorable Justice Cowan, right. Constitutional Review report. I know for fact that they had a committee set up that has looked at launching a white paper soon. We pray that it comes forward so that some other issues within our Constitution can be fixed. As I was reading through the judgments, there's a discussion there about constitutions being living documents. Right. Very interesting essays, sections on that in the judgments put out by the judges. So one hope is they will expedite that process of coming out with that white paper to address some of the lacunas we have. Yeah? So we hope to see that. The second one is I will be chairman of the Committee on Public and Political Affairs. These are political issues that will fall under my purview. I plan to pursue them. Third, I plan to visit the Attorney General to say, hey, you sent one forward, you have mine, you and I had met. How do we work together? That's my interest. It's not me. As I said, I don't benefit anymore. And that's what people should see here. I don't benefit anymore, but I fought for others. That's the key. That's the honest leadership representation in Parliament. You fight not because of your interest. I don't have an interest in this, but I fight for the future generation. So I'll visit the Attorney General to see how do we work together. You have one, I have another, but I had given you mine over a year ago. How can we work to collaborate on a common agenda? It's in the SLPP manifesto, it's in the NGC manifesto, C4C, the APC colleagues I have met. I've met a number of senior APC folks who want the same thing. So this is wonderful. It's a collaborative effort, which is what we proposed 3 years ago.
When you say you do not just quickly out of curiosity, when you say you do not benefit out of all of this, you were on one of my shows, though on phone, and the panelists and callers, they have a different view.
Yes.
You're pushing for all of this on a selfish ground because Honorable Dr. Kandeh Yumkellah, his biggest constituency is in the diaspora.
Are you kidding me? You think I have more supporters in the diaspora than the SLPP and APC? Anybody who says that does not understand Sierra Leone politics. Those who have lobbied me the most are especially SLPP diasporans. Those who have lobbied me the most. In fact, one of them did something good. He made a nice collage of the different judgments and distributed SLPP core executive member. So those who were saying that, and I heard, I was on your show, one of my big brothers make the same claim. And I said, he knows he shouldn't do that. He don't attack me personally. Let's talk intellectually. And that's what I wanted from my big brother. Yeah, it's on the facts. But I'm exonerated by what his learned colleagues have said now. Right. Also experienced judges. Yeah? So the fact here is, you also have the NEC. The NEC just did a workshop 3 weeks ago. And it included this very topic. So I am encouraged, because you were asking how far. I am encouraged that you have several streams going on now that we can bring together. The Constitutional Review white paper that we're expecting soon, the Attorney General's action, the NEC that is looking at all of this. They just did a big workshop, and there were good leadership attendance. And of course, the bill we sent, my colleagues and I sent to Parliament. So there are several work streams. What I pray is the Honorable Speaker takes this as an epochal time, a time that people have to put their stamp on society, as the judges have done. And he says, fine, as a neutral, true Speaker of the Sierra Leone Parliament and representative of the people, I'll bring all of these work streams to a logical conclusion, expressing the will of the people, also watching the guidance that the judges have given us from the Supreme Court. Remember, he also relied on the Supreme Court for his properties. Okay? For his properties, Supreme Court. So we have two precedents from the Supreme Court. We see how the boat comes to shore. But let me broaden the discussion.
Go ahead.
What I am interested in is a progressive agenda for Sierra Leone. It was not just to seem. We're fighting for gender. Yeah? So the Minister of Gender Affairs and I will meet hopefully this week or next week. I made a proposal. She's done a bigger proposal. Fantastic. It is for the women of Sierra Leone. So I sent her a text on Monday, say, hey, I'm back. We were exchanging text messages when I was out because I wasn't here when you launched your wonderful bill. I am ready to visit you. How can I help? It is not because it is her. It is the issue. It's about gender empowerment. If I fought for it in 2013 till now, somebody has something bigger, more power to her. Say, how can I be a champion with you? That's part of the progressive agenda. Empowerment of women, 30% quota. The next one is for the young professionals. Resign 6 months, not 12 months. And I know Mr. President wants the same. So my brand of politics, therefore, is about a progressive agenda that takes these issues and use my pulpit as a lawmaker. If we talk about it, but we have not done it, then if a law is needed, I move it. I want to work on tribalism as well. Yeah? Tribalism kills this country, not only governance. Not only governance. This morning, I was listening to one of the talks about the markets, how politics has invaded the markets and the violence within markets. Somebody went to Lumley Market for an interview. I think it's 98. Probably it was on 98.1. Was listening. Within the politics, there's also the tribal. We are being divided in this country in different sectors by party and by tribe. We have to be careful. So I would want to work with others to also work on the ethnic quota.
All right.
So it's a broader progressive agenda that I want to collaborate with others, government, opposition parties, to help the polity.
As you talk about this now, how would you galvanize your constituency? Broad use of the term there. I mean, I mean Parliament.
In the broadest sense. In the broadest sense.
Parliament. How would you galvanize support with your fellow MPs to push for the things you're advocating for? You have this bill regarding citizenship you were talking about. You have the gender bill, which is also coming up as well. And a lot of the times, these bills had actually come to Parliament before. So, what are you doing in terms of galvanizing support with fellow MPs, or rather lobbying these ideas around to see how much support you can get?
We will continue the lobbying. We've been lobbying for some time. I remember the last day before we broke for recess, there was a lunch organized by a powerful caucus, and we all went there to support the women's caucus. We all went there to support them, a wonderful lunch. And of course, there were a lot of jokes about the two-scene bill. And that's part of the process. In social gatherings, in the hallways, in people's offices, we'll be talking to people. We'll be talking to the leadership. I'll talk to my colleagues again. I've been engaging them for some time. We'll talk to other members of parliament to see the future, not just the current situation. So, but remember now, it's not only me. I see government has to do the same.
Right.
Minister of Gender has to do the same now, and they've started. I know the gender ministry, the women's groups are already lobbying and creating awareness about the importance of the gender bill. I've been contacted by some, and I've assured them. That's why I tweeted immediately they launched their policy. I looked at it quickly, the statement that came from cabinet. I called a few people here who are associated with this. I said, you can count on me. So the lobbying will continue, the education will continue. We just pray that other colleagues see beyond today, that they recognize that we have a responsibility today to build the future.
Let me ask you this question. As you
By the way, there was a comment where I'm referring them as honorable. That's the way they sign off. Because I said to myself, but wait a minute, the speaker said only we should be using honorable. But I did see here the Honorable N.C. Brown Mark, the Honorable G. Thompson.
Well, just quickly.
So I wanted to be careful here. Right. I don't want to be held in contempt if I'm quoting their documents.
As you go on with your lobbying skills, I've spoken to a lot of members of parliament belonging to the ruling SLPP. They are not happy with even the bill, the government's bill on the
really?
TUSIM. Yes, they are not happy with that.
Wow.
And they told me in confidence, I mean, those that I spoke to, it's something they would not support, and they gave their reasons.
I see.
But what I want to touch on has to do...
You'll tell me some of the reasons so I know how to prepare for the lobby.
Right, but what I want to touch on has to do with another critical position of naturalization. Those who are not born here, but I mean, they've gained citizenship by naturalization, and if at all they can go on, be voted in as members of parliament and things like that. And that is the most critical area. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts around that?
I see that even the judges avoided naturalization. Right. There are concerns about naturalization. We did not include naturalization in our own bill. We believe that we should debate that more nationally again. Can be done maybe on the CRC. As I said, when we were doing this exercise 3 years ago, we picked low-hanging fruits. Yeah, I have learned a little bit now that you pick your fights. But I believe the CRC process can take a look at that, and we hope that it will be done. You mentioned in your question that some colleagues are opposed. I will say we join hands to do the right thing for the citizens of Sierra Leone. We will not stop lobbying. If it requires me making an appointment to visit Mr. President also to say how can I help lobby within the SLPP, I'll be happy to do it. In my capacity as chairman of political affairs. I'll visit the political party offices very soon to understand from their perspective the political issues. So SLPP headquarters, APC headquarters, C4C and so on, and the chairman of all those political parties to rally support for bigger agenda items. To fight tribalism, for example, we all have to sign off on some kind of a declaration of intent, but also putting in some laws in place that will protect institutions in particular, so that they can become professional, independent, and so on. So I'll reach out to political parties, and that's what I hope my colleagues would do. You know, we have to build a better Sierra Leone. If we skip over and just avoid some issues, I tell you, there will be disasters coming. Right. Civil protests and other things that are not good for society. If lawmakers do not do their role, they kick the can down, they're inviting a crisis in the future.
All right. Well, I think we can end the conversation on that note and wish you good luck in all the other endeavors you
But just in a second, forgive me, Antonia, just in a second, consider this as a setup and you have the choice not to comment on it. What's your take on the redenomination of our leons and what that has led us to in a minute?
So you will invite me for the economy as you do. I'll give you 1 hour on the economy in time.
Right.
All right.
I'm still studying the issue, but I already see what the governor knows we call externalities, unintended consequences on the economy within 4 weeks. I'm sure he's thinking about how he'll stabilize all of that, but we'll have time now to look at the economy. I know my team, Arthur Pierce and others are in the markets, every day checking prices. I actually stopped by Lumley to buy my tapalapa as well, because before I left it was 1,500 and the lady charged me 2,000. And then I went into a bakery.
Oh, the bread is a special issue. It's a special issue on its own. We've been having the back and forth. As you said, it might be great to have an interview on that specifically. But thank you so much for being part of Wake Up Sierra Leone this morning. It's now time for some sports, and for that we'll join our sports presenter, Ransford McLean, and we'll be back.
Welcome to Sierra Leone. No, the real Sierra Leone. Today's Sierra Leone. of who we are. It has been for over 100 years. We get Sierra Leone. In the past, we got things wrong. Now, we're making it right. To show we are putting people first and care for what matters to them, for the milestone, for the big moments, for the mere necessities, for the go-getters, the trendsetters, for the next generation. Forward with today's Sierra Leone. As a bank for Sierra Leone, Rokel Commercial Bank, the bank of choice.
Thank you. The executive of Bo Rangers Football Club has named Swedish-born Josie Solomon Curtis as their new head coach and other officials to form the technical team. Chairman Babadi Kamara says they will serve for the remainder of the league after the former coach Dominic Kone resigned for the national team. Let's take a look.
Our main purpose of being here is to unveil to you the technical team with the steering for the remaining of this league season. And as we know, the head coach will not resign. We get other members of the technical team we also will not left, Patrick Uzo and Kamanda. And we're not going to let them present the vacants going into the league. Because of that, we don't engage with self and we don't come up with a very solid team, perhaps unprecedented in the history of Sierra Leone. For ensure say we remain focused, for ensure say we turn objective for winning the league remain unabated, though the personality of a coach is not a guarantee say he will win the league if we don't remain focused.
The first is to meet the team, to talk with my staff, talk with the board, see what we can do, and start working as soon as possible with the team. I want to meet the team and prepare them for the next game.
The head coach of FC Cologne has resigned as coach for the club. Karim, who doubles as assistant coach for Leon Stars, says he left his position as FC Cologne to focus on the preparation of the national team for the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. How true is it that you've resigned from FC Cologne Football Club?
Yeah, of course, Rashford, I've resigned. I've did my resignation letter. Before doing that, I think I get the CEO consent before I do my resignation. And he wished me very happy time in the national team and he wished me good luck. He was happy for me. That's the most important thing. And of course, I have my resignation to the chairman of the
So what triggered your resignation at this time?
Well, you know, I've worked with FC Cologne for the past 10 to 11 years, I think. I've do my job very good and I've been dedicated myself to work with them. The thing that triggered is now, you know that I've been in the national team for so long now. I think I've been in the qualifiers. I think now that we have qualified by the head coach of John Kista, we help the technical team a lot to us to get the success. Now that we have qualified, I think they need our full cooperation and full determination and commitment to serve this nation. And what people should know that I think they have to know that our country, Sierra Leone, comes first. Even for everything, we put Sierra Leone first. I think that's the main idea why I resigned. Because
that's all for sports. Back to you.
All right, those were some sports stories there presented to you by our sports reporter Ransford McLean. And I think this is where we close today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Our quote for today says, "The Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to the government and represents the government in all legal proceedings. He or she is supposed to act completely independent in the public interest without interference within partisan politics. He or she must not be a cabinet minister And it comes from Abdul Fatoma, a human rights campaigner and the Chief Executive Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, CHRDI.
I would love to ask Abdul a question around whether or not the Attorney General should not be a cabinet minister, because the Attorney General doubles as the Minister of Justice in Sierra Leone.
That's exactly what he's saying in the
All right, we say thank you to our sponsor, Okel Commercial Bank, for their support to the show. Continue to stay with AYV throughout the day as we have other exciting programs coming up. Till we meet again tomorrow with more interesting topics here on Wake Up Sierra Leone. We've been your presenters. My name is Samuel Wise-Bandura.
And my name is Antonia Howard, wishing you a lovely day.
You're watching AYV Television.
When Isata prepares food for the family, when John boils water for tea, or when Chef Ami prepares